Hello, welcome to Arcade Couch, the best place to chill with friends and get your gaming goodness every Monday. My name's Dylan Blank. Joining me on the couch this week, 101 Dalmatians and Ashley Hobley.
Hey, Dylan, excited to be here. I hope I'm not Cruella.
That's right. And also here, Ciaran Marchant.
Did you just call my dog a Dalmatian? You fuck. You know what? She actually gets... No. Belle gets called, even though... She's a Great Dane, everyone, if you haven't seen one of my dogs, Belle. She gets called a Dalmatian all the time. I remember one of the first times we were walking her, this like little 3-year-old kid ran up to her, pointing at her, calling her Pongo. And I was like, what the fuck? First, not Dalmatian. Second, it's a female. Don't call it Pongo. Jeez.
I'm not sure a kid can just determine whether a dog is male or female.
I don't care. Maybe don't go with the gender specific name. Just be like Dalmatian. You know?
Pongo feels like very
very neutral.
Specific. It's not neutral because it's the male freaking Dalmatian from 101 Dalmatians.
I didn't
remember that.
I didn't remember that either. So
clearly,
not of us hold a grudge against Dalmatians. Apparently,
jeez. Apparently, just fucking no, because
I just like the idea of you getting into a fight with a 3-year-old because it called your dog a Dalmatian.
Look,
Pongo.
It took
fuck
the
kid.
it took
it's a
the
fucking
best
Great
of my,
Dane, kid.
It's a great fucking Dane, mate.
It took the most of my restraint for me not to like punt the kid across the lake, like just.
Yeah, okay. So thank you for joining us this week. This is it's a podcast.
Dog couch.
Dog couch.
Couch.
Good job, everyone.
Yeah,
all right. So let's get into it. We're going to be talking about a bunch of things this week, including Outriders. DontNod's apparently publishing own games. E3 is officially back, and Kojima may or may not be taking up arms at Xbox. But first, let's go over.
Sorry. I should have said Canine Couch. That would have been better.
Well, yeah, you fucked up. I didn't give you much of a head up. I was kind of testing how fast you could come up with a good. See, I don't usually open with my own joke. You know what I mean? Like I usually just do the intro and hand it over to you. So I kind of threw a spanner in the works by having a hot take. So PAX Australia tickets officially went on sale last week. That were fucked. Then they went again on sale this week, and we managed to buy them as Kotaku writes. Punters report 502 errors, double charging and queue jumpers while trying to get PAX AUS tickets. They write, tickets to PAX Australia 2021 went back on sale today, and in what can only be described as proof that nature is healing and we're headed towards some sort of post-pandemic normality, the queues were insane. For a hot second there, I actually thought I had missed the preposterous queues for live events, but alas, I have not. The first round of badges went on sale a few weeks back, and due to a surge in demand, as we all desperately crave some sort of IRL human interaction, servers failed and many punters missed out. Thankfully, the second round of badges were up for grabs today, prompting those who missed out in the initial round to wake up early and jump in the queue. But sadly, today's tickets weren't without the fair share of mishaps. For starters, there was a 7,000 plus strong queue, which is a huge win for the return of the live event, but isn't so fun when you're 6,998th in the queue. Sadly, the problems didn't stop there. And what can only be described as some pretty antisocial behavior, there have been a number of reports on social media of people finding ways to bypass the queue and purchase their tickets before their turn. There have been reports that PAX will not be voiding these tickets, but PAX has yet to officially confirm this. But I mean, I don't think they can, but anyway.
How would they be able to track how many people do
I don't know how they could track that, so I don't really know. And then, by the way, so yeah, PAX have put up today as recording, Friday we're recording this, PAX put up this morning that they only sold 80% yesterday when the tickets went on sale today. I don't know if they would have sold through that last 20% of the tickets today. Maybe not. Who actually knows?
Well, that was 80% of
the 3-day passes, which...
to be specific.
Yeah, which are obviously usually the primary ones, the ones to go, the earliest ones to go. So yeah, I guess there's two takeaways from this, or several. I don't know, depends how you want to look at it. I think it is good for PAX, like as a an event group or whatever you want to call it, to see that there is so much interest in this. I guess that's good to know that there is excitement for this, that there isn't. I guess the majority of Australia isn't sitting in fear of being like, no, it's not time. Like, we can't make this work. Like, a lot of people are putting out hope. And I guess that's the one thing, and I think we've spoken about this before, where, I feel like most people buying these tickets are well aware of the hopefulness that involves in buying a PAX ticket. I don't think any of us and all of us got our own, got tickets, of course. I don't think any of us are like, man, like there's always that little bit that, so for instance, Tassie could get COVID. I wouldn't be able to travel. Queensland could get COVID. Ash wouldn't be able to travel. If Melbourne got COVID, Ciaran could travel, but we
I was going to say
come.
all of
we
us
couldn't
would be
come.
fucked
Yeah,
if
then we're all
Melbourne
fucked.
got COVID.
You know what I mean? Like there's
thing
so
was-
many layers to this where it could go wrong, but it could go right. But also we're all being hopeful.
I think I've probably a little bit in a situation where I'm even more comfortable with this now because I think I've already been to the footy twice this year, and that was with crowds of 40,000 and 50,000 people, and it was fine. People were wearing masks when they needed to most of the time. I think the MCG was doing what it could to space people. I think PAX has got a very good chance of.
And it's 5 months away, like roughly.
Yeah, it's 5 months away. Like we've got it. We're at the point in Australia where we're opening up the freaking travel bubble with New Zealand. Like it's pretty damn good. It's pretty good in terms of how it's going.
Yeah, I got my big awakening is definitely when I traveled to Canberra a couple weeks back. Where up until then, up until that trip, I was kind of feeling scared of flying. Like, I had a feeling of like I definitely had a feeling of being slightly scared to leave Tassie. You know what I mean?
You don't want to be trapped. You don't want to be trapped in a pressurized container with a potentially deadly virus.
Well, no.
Yeah,
but it's just because I felt so safe here in Tassie because we've pretty much had it. Locked down. We had our early cases, but then we kicked those people into the sea and said, "Go swim for the shores and go fuck Victoria up." And
you just chucked them on the Spirit of Tasmania.
Yeah. I was like,
"Don't come back."
GTFO and don't come the fuck back. So yeah, I definitely had a thing of like kind of not wanting to leave until everything was pretty good. But I've kind of kicked my ass into the gear, and that got me a little bit more excited about PAX. I'm even traveling to Sydney next weekend. So. That's another thing. So, like, I'm just all around the place now. Hopefully, I don't bring COVID back to the Explosion Network offices, but we can only hope and see. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. Got the tickets, got everything. And again, like, I definitely am like. Hopefully, it's 5 months. Hopefully, we can all get our shit together. Hopefully, Australia can keep everything together. Hopefully, more vaccines get rolled out. Hopefully, whatever the conditions that are needed in October, like everyone's willing to follow them. I don't know what they could be. I mean, at worst, I think it may be a thing of like, hey, like obviously there'll be hand sanitizer fucking everywhere. I think if there's like a level of masks involved, I could only ever see it being like maybe a thing of, hey, if you're in like I don't know, the eating area, I don't know, like a big enclosed space, masks, I don't know, but I feel like if they had to ask everyone to wear masks, the event just simply wouldn't happen. Hall? Yeah, I just don't think the event would happen. Like, I don't think the event can happen when you have to ask everyone to wear masks.
I think it would. I think it would. Like, even at like the MCG, it's like the footy still suggested that you wear a mask in any congested area.
Yeah. So
any kind of going to get food or anything, even though I don't believe many people were doing that because
I highly doubt it.
A little bit comfortable.
But
I still think one of the things I guess is common sense, even for 5 months' time, have fucking masks in your pocket or somewhere on you to use it when you think you need to, like waiting in lines and stuff. I think it's just the smart thing to do.
I would love if we just go to PAX and everyone comes back with a classic case of PAX flu
PAX
or something.
The PAX box.
Like I think if people got home, they're like, I've got PAX box. Everyone would be like, oh, thank God.
I would really like if it was the opposite when nobody came.
No, I don't think. No. I think we this year could be a better chance of not having the PAX box because people should be more accepting and more readily washing their hands and stuff. Like I think it has become more of a cultural thing now where if you see a hand sanitizer thing, you just give it a little squirt and you just sanitize up a little bit, you know?
Yeah. I feel like it'll be the heavy drinking that is more impactful to the actual convention.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That's the other thing because obviously there's a big element of socializing and community, like drinking and all that stuff evolved outside of the general PAX hours. That it's like I really just don't think PAX, like if they reliant on thousands of people wearing masks and stuff like that across not only the hall and stuff, I would trust 90% of people to wear masks if that's what we all got told to do. But yeah, I don't know if it would be the smartest decision to do it if you have to do that. I'm hoping 5 months from now they're just like, look, hand sanitize, If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. Wash your hands, please. Don't cough in people's faces. Like general stuff that you should just be doing. But I'm hoping 5 months from now, they're like, you're not required to wear a mask. Like I'm hoping that's the stage where
I would laugh at lining up in. Actually, I hope they have a better way of lining up to get into the convention than cramming everybody into the entrance hall.
It's going to be great.
That's a terrible way. But also,
that's how we know we're back.
Hearing thousands of people singing Country Road through masks could be amusing like once, and then for the
like a muffled,
like it'd be quite amusing.
You just think about all those things though, like lines and stuff. It's like I don't think if we're required to be that COVID safe, I just don't think the event could work. So I'm presuming they're hoping that it's like we're good, and I'm hoping we're good, and that's all we can do is hope. It doesn't matter if again for people who didn't buy tickets, if COVID comes back and you can't attend, they have already said you'll get refunds. Like we're not all getting swindled out of our money here. We're all just hoping for a return to normality by the end of 2021. And by the way, put it in perspective, October 2021, we've been through this. By that point, it would have been like nearly a full 2 years of this shit.
18 months. 18 months.
Yeah, so it's like, come on, give us a break.
Especially Melbourne. I think Melbourne has.
Yeah, Melbourne deserves it out of any. Victoria deserves it the most generally out of any Australian state. I think
Melbourne, just because of lockdowns, Melbourne has just had to get better and just do better, and just act better.
At the same time, how big of a win would that be? Like, so Melbourne got fucked the hardest out of any Australian city, obviously, and if that's the place that can host a massive event like that, I think that's just a major win for Australia, really. Yeah,
I would agree. And I think it's going to be interesting not just for the PAX convention, but for the surrounding locations around the exhibition centre in terms of shops getting an influx in customers, hotels being filled with people. I think it's going to be, an interesting time.
Definitely. Any other thoughts, Ash?
Yeah. Well, I'm curious how many tickets have actually sold. Because I jumped back into the queue just before. The ticketer is sitting around the 20,000 mark. Well, so 20,000 people went through the queue.
Don't know about
considering that, like, I jumped on later than everybody else, and about 4 on the Thursday, still got tickets.
Somehow
they still got a 3-day pass. Even though, I had an error message when I paid, and it took almost 24 hours for the email to confirm that I had a ticket, even though money had left my account. I think it's been not the bestest of ways, and also kind of not gonna lie, the payment screen of the website looked sketchy as fuck.
It's a shit. It was a new shit system. Apparently the place they usually have been using for the last couple of years, they lost their whatever deal with them, so they've got a new place, and it's the new place is obviously not very good because it went to shit last week or the week before whenever they tried to do it for the first time, and then this new system just wasn't very good either. So
I don't know how. Because they had the pre-waiting section before the link went live. So you would assume you would kind of queue up at that point. I had it up for 2 hours.
Yeah.
I ended up 7,000 in line.
I clicked right on 10 o'clock when the link went live and I was placed 2,000 or something. I'm like, sure, whatever. I had notifications on for their tweets so I could see it pop up right and then click straight away. So I don't know. And also I looked into it. The way people were managing to buy tickets and getting around this was the system they set up was simply that when you went to the normal link to buy PAX tickets on the PAX website, it loaded a landing page on top of that, which meant that what people were doing was they was clicking on the page and for a brief second you would see the normal page behind it before it would load up this new one. People were clicking stop on the load page right as it got to that point and stopping the landing page loading up, and then they're filling in details there, clicking next, clicking stop on the load before the landing page pop up, and they got through the system just doing that stop on each page while entering their payment details, and it all went through because they just stopped it loading in the landing page, which is fucking hilarious.
You can't, it's not their fault that they have this massive...
To be honest, I'm like, you outsmarted the system, good for you. I don't even care. I'm not like, fuck these people playing the system. How dare they? I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. You
You figured out the shortcut. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. I was like, you didn't like hack it or anything. That's their fucking weird, shitty system they set up. So yeah, I don't know. Stay tuned. Hopefully PAX happen. Hopefully we can go there, play some games, make some content. I'll hang out for the first time in fucking 2 years. So
man, it'd be really good to use that camera, huh?
Yeah, I know, right? I do use it
second time
for this podcast. I mean,
okay, cool.
That's why it's why I'm the best looking one in the video, the one with the most clarity. This fantastic camera system. I use it for streaming. Stream weekly now. Twitch.tv/Explosion Network. Everyone, you should.
Well, I guess ExplosionNetwork.com/support if you want to also look beautiful.
3 more cameras. Need to buy you a fucking better internet connection before then. All right, let's jump into the one big game of the week that I've been playing. I know, and then Ciaran and Ash have both dabbled in some regards to it. So Outriders came out, of course, when it was recording last week's episode, came out last Friday. I've put up my review for it. I ended up giving it an 8 out of 10. I think this game is super interesting. So I gave it an 8. I've seen a couple other outlets give it around an 8. I've seen Game Informer actually give it like a 9 or something. But then there's a lot of people giving it like 6s and stuff like that. It's very much all over the place, which, and I've read after I posted mine, I've read through some of the reviews. I'm like, agree with the higher ones. And then a lot of the points in the negative reviews, I just don't agree with. I don't get, like, I don't understand how these people got a completely different experience out of the game that I'm getting. And that's because Outriders is quite an interesting nugget, in my opinion. Obviously, we talked about it briefly when me and Ash both played the demo thing that they put out, which is basically the first hour of the game. It's like the prologue-y section of the game. The demo stops right before you leave the first area where you start the game, and that area of the game is not particularly interesting because you don't unlock all your powers, you don't get particularly many gear. The levels you're playing through, they're quite boring areas. The enemies you're fighting are quite boring, like not to mention the story happening in the background. And my opinion on the story for this game is it's nonsensical through to the end. Basically, it's very much like just people grunting and being like big army dude bros or whatever, and having one-liners and stuff like that.
The tone of the writing for the main character is fucking wild.
Yeah, it's
in terms of like 1 minute is fairly serious. The next minute they're complaining that they're having a bad day because a shopkeeper got shot in front of them, and they're so this put out and like yelling at people for not letting them finish their kind of action movie-esque line. It's like I'm just like, that's the tone of this game.
That's the entire game. There are some cool. So the characters I didn't much care for. They're well, the main character is just not very interesting at all. I mean, the character you play is, but that's whatever. Some of the side characters you meet further into the game are a lot more interesting than the ones you actually meet earlier in the game. And the campaign is actually quite long, so it'll take you like 20 to 25 hours to beat the campaign. It's quite a lengthy campaign, and that's if you're not fucking around or whatever. Do it because there's side missions and whatever else you can do, of course. There's a cool thing that happens in the last couple chapters. And obviously it sets up a sequel, and I was like, cool, this is a lot more interesting. This definitely feels like a prologue, I guess, whatever. But the key reason I like this game is definitely not the story, by hearing me talk about it. I really love the combat in this game, to the point that after I posted my review, I've still played more. Like, I played more this morning before work. Like, I'm still I'm clearing off side missions. I've got 2 legendary pieces of gear now, or a couple pieces of legendary gear, 2 that I'm actually using, so that's good. Like, I'm enjoying all the
3 other playthroughs.
I don't know. Like, I'm kind of loving my character. I've tried out all the characters, obviously, but I just love, like, I played this one so much that I was like focused on.
Which one is your primary one?
So Pyromancer is the one I stuck with. But yeah, so there's several elements to what makes this combat really enjoyable, and also why I think that a lot of people are missing the point for this game. And I don't think this is anyone in particular's fault. I actually kind of think the game did a bad job at sort of marketing itself, and then also there's just some weird design decisions that seem shoved in when maybe they shouldn't have been. So this game is not Destiny. This game is not The Division 2. This game is not a third-person cover shooter, really, which is interesting because the game starts like a typical
third-person cover shooter.
No, it's a third-person action game, but it's definitely not a cover shooter. And I would say at the start of the game, when you don't have powers, you kind of have to play it like a cover shooter that first hour because you have no choice. The further you get into this game, especially by the time you reach the mid-game point, the enemies you're facing and the environment you're in, I'm basically never in cover because you've got power-ups, you've got way better weapons, and if you're in cover, like, it's kind of pointless. The cover's for the enemies, if anything. Like,
there's a boss fight there was a boss fight I played through where I literally exclaimed, "Why the fuck does this feel like a cover shooter? But there is so much shit forcing me out of cover."
Yeah, it's not a cover shooter.
Like there was there was this boss just like throwing like tornadoes of fire at me that would just like stay on top of me if I stood in one place, and I was like, okay, my brain does not compute with what's going on here, but sure. Yeah. Let's.
It's interesting because of course the game has lots of cover you can get behind, and you still do at times, especially if you want to take a second to just reload your guns or whatever. I pop behind cover, but at the same time, I'm wondering if maybe the game would have been better by being like, you don't have cover. Like you can press crouch behind cover to kind of hide behind it, but there's not an actual lock in the cover system. And that would make people feel like this is actually Gears of War or Division or something along those lines. So
it's an interesting book because especially with the point I'm at, I'm actually building my character.
And how far are you? Just like
so level 8. So
what area? Area are you in?
The first city. So I've literally just the mission I'm currently doing is like it's like the first time there's been lots of hordes of the like enemy creatures, like the kind of
okay. So you haven't finished that though.
No, I haven't finished that yet.
I think I played that. It's the second area, right?
Yes, it's the second area.
I played through that with Ash to make sure he had a wider variety of the game the other night.
No. So I'm playing through that, and I guess one of my problems is because I picked the Technomancer actually suggests to use long-range weapons with it, and so I'm using sniper rifles, and like the building is heading towards sniper rifles. Same time, I do get the feeling every now and then I should not be in cover and like chilling all the way back here sniping people, but I'm still enjoying it. The abilities that my character's got, I'm hoping there's more abilities that suit a long-range playstyle because I'm having trouble kind of throwing my turret and stuff close enough to the enemies when I'm stood so far back.
Let me tell you this. In the patch that's going live in, I think, early next week for this game, they are nerfing the Technomancer because people have been soloing the hardest like level of the game because they've figured out a way to break the build.
The turret's really strong.
It's not just the turret, it's the unlockability. Like every character basically has every different class has an ability that sort of coats their bullets in a certain type of thing.
Yes,
and theirs has acid, and there's a bunch of skills that people have worked out to stack with that, along with the turret. That means that as long as they're killing enemies, either them or the turret, their rounds will never end. So once they activate the acid rounds, they have infinite acid rounds.
Yes, and then also on top of that, their like passive ability is they just heal.
Yeah.
They have lifesteal on their bullets.
Yeah.
It's just yeah. But I'm having fun with it. It's just like it has like the classic kind of aiming style of if you hold the ability, it'll let you see like the arc that you'll throw it. But
fuck that slam buttons. I never use that.
Because I use it just so I can like throw stuff because otherwise it throws the grenade like 2 foot in front of you for some reason.
Or straight into the wall in front of you.
Yeah, it's just where I'm like lining that up. Also, like, yeah, I'll let you keep talking because there's one of the issue I feel there is with this game that I'm not loving at the moment.
Yeah, so I definitely would say I kind of fell for it at the midway point, which is when you start. You've got so you can have 3 skills active at any one point in your 3 quick slots, right? Once you get to a point where you've unlocked a couple. At least I'd say 5, and you have that opportunity to go, which of these 5 do I actually want to equip? Like, what kind of play style am I going for here, and what am I trying to do? And there's a point, like, there's a boss fight halfway through the game where I was like, oh, I kind of get it a lot more now because I kept playing on the highest world tier I could, which I'll come back to in a little bit. But world tier is basically Diablo's system where you can play on a higher world tier. Enemies are several levels in front of you. The game's basically harder, but you get increased chances of loot. As long as you're playing on the hardest world tier, you can unlock the next one. So I was always playing on the hardest mode, which playing a single player makes this game quite hard. Like, it's obviously designed for co-op, but I was like, fuck, I just want to get the good loot. So I reached the boss fight where it took me like 10, 20 tries, this boss fight. And it was also the point where I was like, man, I kind of understand the game systems a lot more because I had to rearrange my gear and my abilities to be able to be like, I don't need the high damage abilities. I need the abilities that have interrupt on them to be able to interrupt this boss's attacks. And then I had to change some mods on my guns because I'm like, some of these mods are just completely useless. I wasn't paying proper attention. These mods are for abilities I'm not using, and I switched up some of the other mods to increase my health leech and armor if I was taking damage from close range, which I was in that boss fight. So it was around that point where I was like, I really am beginning to understand how a lot of these games mods, skills, and systems sort of intertwine, and you can really with a few button clicks kind of increase and touch up your build to make it so much stronger. And it's not even that complicated. Like, I know this may sound complicated, but this game's loot system I think is really good. I think the modification system
the same as, it's very similar to Destiny.
Kinda, yeah. But so my favorite thing is there's a few favorite things. So like level 30 is the max level in the game. At that point, you have a certain amount of skill points you can put in your skill tree. Now, every class obviously has its own skill tree. But I love how in this game, it doesn't lock you behind. Like, it's like, oh, you fucked up. You've put skills where you want. At any point, you can clear them all. At any point, you can place them wherever you want. That means you could change your playstyle and skills for a boss if you want.
Stuff in this game's insane.
Hey?
Quality of life in this game is insane. The auto loot system is my favorite auto loot system.
Do you switch that to common?
Played in a game. I switched it to common.
Yeah.
Every time, so I'm playing with one of my friends. Every time he like mines some iron or opens a chest over the other side of the map, he's like, "Hey, just click auto loot." And so all I do is press the button wherever I'm.
You're playing on keyboard and mouse on PC.
Yeah, playing on keyboard.
So you just tap H and it picks up everything.
Tap H picks up everything, no matter where you are in the map.
Yeah, it's great.
Just gives it to you.
Yeah, and if you leave the level, it auto picks it up.
Really? I did not know that either. Yeah, it's it has a lot of like quality of life stuff that is like super. Like even stuff like it has buttons for the different rarities, so you can like instant pick all your commons
to dismantle them and stuff.
To dismantle it or to go sell it in the future, like you automatically marks them all.
Mm-hmm.
I think this game is a fantastic quality of life game.
Yeah.
For this genre, my only problem is I feel like I don't like the flow of the game feels very broken so far. Like I feel like I'm always either waiting for a load or waiting for somebody to open a door somewhere in a level because everything is kind of instanced off. In terms of got a side quest, here's a door over here you have to go through a load.
Yeah, I would agree with that point. But my only like sort of asterisk on that is the load times are at least as short. I know. Well, I mean,
the load times aren't bad.
Yeah.
It's just there's still.
It is weird where there's literally points where it's like there's a side mission over here and it's like over this slight little gap that the character has to jump over. So you have to hold a button to travel, and you see that stupid little cutscene where they just jump over a gap or open a door. And that's it. And like playing single player, I think the load time's obviously a lot faster than when I was playing with Ash or some randoms I've played co-op with. So it literally takes like a second to load. Like it goes into that cutscene, I click escape, I'm in there. I'm like, well, why couldn't I have just jumped like in real time? Like, what was she loading?
It's just it feels very broken. Like quest givers are all behind a door. Like there's some of them are sat out for you to talk to, but like there's a lot of closed doors that you have to just press a button on to load the cutscene to go into that room. There's not. I like these kinds of games to have a bit more flow to them in terms of, okay, I have a bunch of side quests. I'm going to do these side quests while I'm on my way to do the main mission or whatever. Where it feels more like, I've loaded into this area's quote-unquote hub area. I'm now going to look for the door I need to go into to complete this side quest. And in that instance, they're only going to be doing that side quest.
Yeah.
There's nothing else in there. It's just that side quest area.
Yeah. So for people listening, basically, there is levels in this game, if you want to call them that. Like, when you arrive in each level, it's like a big sort of.
It's not really an open world game.
Like you could be tricked into thinking it's an open area, but it's not really. The main quest will lead you through like sort of a loop of that level to a degree, or take you through a main path where you do a bunch of fights and there's a boss fight at the end, blah, 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 blah. But however, along the way, and if you choose to ignore them, you can or whatever, there'll be a bunch of offshoot paths where you have to enter doors or jump through things, go under logs or whatever. And these are always just side quests. And there's no reason to ever go there unless you're doing the side quest. So it does feel very offshoot. I would say, I saw them say on Twitter or Reddit or somewhere I was looking the other day that this game's been in development for 5 years. I think that's the answer as to why a lot of design decisions in this game kind of feel like they're quite dated. And that's because it's weirdly been in development for quite a while, considering what's here and what's the final product. Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff like that. Like, I'll say visually, the game's just not the prettiest thing. Like I've been taking a lot of screenshots, but they're always like sort of far away of environmental things. The character models aren't pretty. There's not particularly like when
I think it's like dynamic effects of like the storm or like
yeah,
the
stuff like that
effects
looks really
cool.
good, but like
they look really good.
Yeah, the cutscenes look pretty shit, and I pointed out in my review that for some reason they struggle to run at 30 frames per second. I don't know why. Like they're really choppy.
Yeah, I have that. Yeah.
I'm like, why?
I looked in the settings that it's actually like capped at 30 frames.
But I uncapped it,
like
and then
frames.
it was at sometimes I had the frame rate counter up on Steam, and I uncapped the cutscenes, and for 1 second I'll be running at 120 or whatever. Next second they drop down to 24 for a couple seconds or 20. Or I'm like, why are you struggling? Anyway, so that's not the end of the world. But it's just like there's a lot of weird technical weird things going on with this game. But it definitely does have a lot of like this, and it's definitely like the combat and the loot and everything and the powers that just keeps me coming back and sort of makes me a bit more forgiving for these things that you're pointing out.
Yes.
Where I'm like, I agree with everything you're
much.
saying, but I'm like,
Yes.
boy, have I had a great time, especially once you reach that halfway point and you get a bunch more gear and stuff.
I think my problem has been, I think I'm looking forward to, like, I think I'm at the early stage of the game where I can see what this game has to offer. I'm just kind of waiting for it to rip the training wheels off a little bit more, because at the minute the gameplay has been enter the room or enter the area, brawl all the people, look around the area for chests and for like collectibles, and then find the glowing blue door or object for you to climb over. And I'm just kind of, I'm hoping and I'm wanting that to kind of develop itself a little bit more for the game and kind of open up a little bit more in many ways and just be a little bit more kind of free flowing. And I hope it does. Like, I hope especially with more and more kind of leveling and growing as a character, that you get more of those options going forward, because that'd be real nice.
The gameplay doesn't really change in that you're always just fighting things. Like, it is just a shooty game, right? But
yes, of course.
It does a good job at mixing up the different enemy types. Like, so by the time you reach the end of it, you've had a nice mix of just straight up people that shoot you, like dude, bro, like other dudes just shooting you. But then you have a range of different creature types that are introduced towards the end of the game and stuff like that. And I think that's also one thing that helps, because you may play through a level and be like, oh, I'm sick of fighting these deep, big brutes or whatever. But then the next level, it's all these different types of monsters attacking you, or like big flying creatures that you have to fight that kind of look like aerodactyls, whatever. Fuck.
Pterodactyls?
Yeah, I was like, aerodactyls,
yep,
one's a Pokemon, one's not. Like, they're flying around, like, attacking you. Like, well, fuck, these things are kind of cool to fight. So, and as much as I complained in a demo, I was like, oh, this game kind of looks very samey or whatever. Like, you definitely get a variety of areas to travel through. Like, the game literally goes from desert to jungle to snow, to a different type of desert, to, like army facilities, and all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot more variety to this than I definitely had introduced and stuff. One thing I do want to touch on before we finish up, because I haven't actually touched on it, which is, again, this isn't Destiny, this isn't Division. They've said this isn't a live service game. As much as people, for some reason, look at it and go, it is, even though no one ever treated Borderlands that way. I'm like, Borderlands is a looter shooter, but it's not. No one ever was like, hey, it's Destiny. I guess it was because it was a pre-perceived thing or whatever. Like, this game has loot, and you can play it in co-op, but it's not a live service hub world game or whatever. Like, it's literally a co-op game with, or a solo game, whatever you want to play. But it does have an end game. The end game is all right. It's not going to.
But that's most games.
Yeah,
that's most games nowadays, where it's like they're not. These games are not built to be binged, if that makes sense. Like, they're not built to kind of reaching max level in the first weekend or the first
week. Which people
week,
did for some reason, but yeah.
People do. Everybody does it all the time.
There's always those people that break the game, and
these kind of people the people that play these games are exactly those type of people that are like, man, I'm just going to play this game nonstop until I reach max level. And then the developer's like, no. We wanted you to chill on all the content we've made already, so then we can bring the end game content out in like a month's time. And then, so then you get this discussion straight away at launch where people are like, oh, it's end game's a bit bland. And you're like, yeah, because the game doesn't want you to be there yet.
I think there's something nice about this game's end game, though, which is that, so as I said, the campaign's 25 hours. And then if you were to do the end game, which is, it's basically 15 really hard missions. And And by really hard, I mean I watched a YouTube video of someone doing the last one. I was like, this is fucking intense. Like the ones I've done, they're called expeditions, and they're designed to be played in at least 2 to 3 people. I did the first one by myself. I teamed up with other players, and I've done like the second, third, and fourth one. I did the second, third with randoms online, just 2 people, and then I managed to do the one after that. I got into a trio group, and I did those online. But they're fucking intense. Like they throw a ridiculous amount of enemies at you, and then you get to the end stage of these levels, and they're throwing like 3 or 4 of the campaign's bosses at you in one arena and just going, here, fucking have at it. And it is like, especially when you're playing this in co-op with 3 people, and there's 3 bosses plus like 50 other fucking enemies, small enemies running around, and everyone's just throwing their abilities around, and like you got these high level characters that just have like massive effects and more cooldowns on their abilities. It is something to behold with the amount of shit that's kind of happening on the screen at one time sometimes when you're playing this game. And I very much enjoyed that. And then, you know, the loop for those 15 levels is there is story to them. There is a reason you're doing them. I'm not spoiling them for people who care about why you're doing these missions. These missions are a carry on from the main game's campaign.
I will give it some credit as well for in terms of narrative attempt for this game. At least all of the quest givers are fully voice acted, and there is some kind of attempt at them having dialogue trees and stuff like that. Not that it changes much or does much with the story, but it's been attempted rather than just here's random quest giver and he's giving you a quest. Yeah. Goodbye.
Every quest and side quest has some sort of story to it. It's not just kill enemies because reasons. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, and I guess it's like you could if you finish the 15th expedition, you could see that story through to the end. And it's kind of nice knowing that, hey, they said there's no like updates coming to the game. So it's not live service. That's not to say they couldn't decide to release like a proper DLC for it, which I would be fine to. I don't think if they chose to release proper DLC, that's them backtracking on being like, we're not doing content updates. That's like, remember when we just got paid DLC that was like, you know, a big extra 8 to 10 hours and you had to pay for it? I don't know. Like, so I'd be open to that. We'll have to wait and see though. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm definitely going to go. I'm planning on at least finishing up all the side quests because I've nearly finished them all at this stage. And maybe jump back into some expeditions. I don't know if Ciaran catches up. If Ciaran gets there and he needs like a third at some stage, I can jump back on and fucking play because I'm having fun. As I've played a little bit of co-op, of course, but I play Vash and whatever else. But yeah, Ash, off your couple hours because you went super hot on the demo when we played it, obviously on PS5. How are you feeling now? Because I made sure that we played through the same shit we did in the demo, and then I made sure we played through to the end of the second level so you could have a different type of enemy to fight, some monsters instead of creatures. What are your thoughts on the early hours at least?
Yeah, it was all right. It was pretty enjoyable. I don't know. It seemed like it's definitely a game that's built around co-op and, you know, like teaming up together and taking out these massive hordes. Yeah, like you guys have all said, there's all ups and downs, but yeah, I had a good time overall. And if you wanted to jump back into it, I'd be happy to jump back into it, you know. Seeing as it definitely helped you and made it much easier too. Seeing as saying you took several tries to beat these enemies. You know, we just killed them in like 2 minutes.
Well, that was something I was finding interesting. So Will's playing on the highest world tier that Ash had unlocked on his game, and I was playing on the highest world tier that I had in my single player. And we got to like a boss fight, one of the boss fights in the second level that took me like 3-4 goes, and we just like smashed it first go on probably the same world tier. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, that's just. This game is a lot harder solo. It's not like, this game sucks to play solo. It's fine to play solo. I enjoyed playing it solo. However, you are in for a much harder time.
it's like we've had it with the friend I'm playing with. He's already played through a large portion of this game already by himself, and he was like, man, these rooms are so much quicker when there's 2 people fighting through them.
Yeah, you don't need 3, you just need 2, I think.
Yeah, like when there's 2 people fighting
through,
when we were
playing quicker. The demo with Buddy, it felt like that was more of a slog than it was this time.
Maybe they adjusted I don't know. Yeah, most likely.
Can I say the world tier system in some ways might be a little bit confusing for players?
Do you think it is? I think it's pretty straightforward.
Well, there's an option for like apparently there's an option for like you just stick with the story world tier, which is like the kind of the basic.
It's below easy.
Tier.
It's like
below easy where it's the story one. Or if you don't have it set to scale your world tiers throughout the game, your loot doesn't scale with you. Like the loot just stays at like a lower level the whole time. So
on default, it's set to automatically level up your world tier when you level up. So for you to fuck your world tier system and stick yourself on story mode for the whole game, you would have to go into that menu and click the button that says turn off world tier.
It opens up and gives you the option straight away.
Yeah, but you'd have to click turn off, and then you would have to downgrade it from like whatever you're at to story.
Exactly.
So like, because otherwise I think world tier system perfectly explains itself. Like you hover over each one, it goes, enemies are plus X levels above you. You get plus % chance of getting legendary gear. You can equip plus X level of gear. It's like 3 dot points.
Yeah.
It's literally just every world tier gets harder. So I'm at world tier 11 and shit's fucked.
So 15 is the hardest.
Yeah, 15 is the hardest and 11 is fucked. So I have no idea how 15 works. Like I will say, I will put an asterisk on that. I played through the majority of the campaign on the hardest. I dropped it down to world tier 5 to finish the game's last 2 levels. Because I got to the boss fight in the second last area. I was like, this is fucked. I think I was on 8 or 9 at that point. I was like, this is fucked. So I switched it down to 5 because I'm like, I still want like an increased chance of loot, but I want to be able to beat the fucking game. So I just like kind of kept on that until I finished it. But I switched it back. And that's the nice thing. Like there's no... in wrapping up here in the world tier stuff, I guess, but it is nice that you can fail a boss 2-3 times or whatever on the highest world tier difficulty you're playing at. Be like, I really want to try and beat this on the harder mode. I want a chance to get the highest gear. And then eventually you're like me, you're like, fuck this shit. I just want to beat it. You can just, when you die, when you respawn, you just open up the pause menu real quick. You go on your world tier, you drop it down to whatever you want. Off you go. There's no restart the whole level. There's no bullshit fucking around. You beat the boss. You're like, I want to switch it back now. Go back up. Done.
And every level and every side quest is replayable.
Yep.
Like they're all there for you to go back to.
Which, given I'm nearly finished every side quest, I would say that to get to world tier 15, you would have to. You're not able to reach it without replaying
the one
stuff.
thing. Apparently, any of the missions that have hordes of enemies are really good for leveling.
Yeah, because I don't think enemy types differ in XP. I think it's literally just. Any enemy drops the same amount of XP towards your world tier. So the more enemies you kill, just the better stuff you get. Because I also tried to break the game when Ash was still level 1 and he just beat the prologue or whatever it was. I was like, jump into my game. Let's see if you can get like a fuck ton of XP. And I brought him into like a really hard mission and he was just like dying constantly. It was like, it was struggle street. But turns out he he got a lot of XP because there was a lot more enemies than in the early game in the mission. But it wasn't like, he got more XP from fighting level 30 whatever enemies that I had.
No, exactly.
I tried to break it. I tried to get the cool article click line on explosionetwork.com, but
that did remind me. Thank God you can revive yourself in that game. If you go down, you just it's only once,
and it's only in co-op.
Once per instance, yeah.
Single player you can't revive yourself. I wish you could. I was like, would make it easier. Yeah, it's once per.
I feel like that would just be a small because it all surrounds you and wait for you to revive and then start.
Unless they let you have like a little blast effect, like when you come back, like a slight knockback or something like that. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. Anyway, that's Outriders. So obviously I like it. I'm not saying it's the best game ever, but I actually think it's probably one of the better first-person shooters I've played in years, which is what I put in my review. The combat and the guns and the abilities, like I felt like a real fucking badass a lot in this game. Like, as I said, once you reach that halfway point again, I'm just going to reiterate, once you start getting some cool guns, you got some abilities, you're like starting to click, you're like, fuck. There are times where I'm just like, I'm just casting like fire spells at people, like shooting them with my gun. My current legendary gun has a thing where it has like a 6-second timer. I kill a gun with kill an enemy with this gun. It like places a little circle bowl where they died, and then if I shoot that bowl, it electrocutes all enemies around them. But also one of my abilities means that if I kill an enemy while they're on fire, they'll fucking combust and just explode everywhere. So at times I'm just like having everyone catch on fire and explode, then everyone catches on electricity and explodes, and then everyone's just fucked, and I'm loving it. So I'm having a blast. It's a good time. Good time. All right, let's get into news and continuing a little bit with that Outriders thing, because I didn't bring this up then, but I've tied into touching into this game. The game was kind of cooked at launch. as all sort of online games are. And I did mention this in my review. I have no idea why the game requires you to be online to play single player. Like, that is kind of stupid. And because the game was having a lot of connectivity issues in that first 48, 72 hours, people were getting up to boss fights. They was having connection issues even though they was playing by themselves, and they was getting kicked back to the main menu. It happened to me once. And I was like, but I'm playing by myself.
Yeah. So that should just be the standard, I think. Why did we think this was a good idea? Did they learn nothing from Sims 4?
I don't know why they did it.
No, SimCity it was, sorry. My apologies.
I mean, I know they've done it for a few games in the past, but like, I think every time someone's complained and then the developers had to walk it back. So hopefully that's actually what ends up happening here.
We don't want perpetually online games.
No, it's weird. Like, if you're playing single player, I know the game's focused around co-op, but if you're playing by yourself and you have matchmaking turned off, so you're not even trying to get people to join your game, leave me the fuck alone. Like, I was playing last night at 3 a.m. because, I don't know, reasons. And I got kicked off because they were doing server maintenance. And I'm like, I'm by myself. What am I, like, it's just leave me alone. It's not Destiny. Like, it's just a game. Let me play the fucking game. Anyway, so PlayStation Lifestyle writes, Outriders offers free community appreciation package for those affected by launch issues. Those who tried to play Outriders over its launch weekend were likely affected by the game's many server issues. Developer People Can Fly promised specific details on what happened during that time, as well as providing those details today. They've also revealed a free community appreciation package for those who weren't able to play during that period. The short version of what happened is that the game, quote, had enough server scaling capacity, but our externally hosted database was seeing issues that only appeared at extreme loads, end quote. So basically, for anyone who can't understand that is literally what happens every time.
So popular.
What happened to Fall Guys to a degree. Like, if you want to compare it to something, that's kind of what happened to Fall Guys. Remember when Fall Guys was fucked for that first 24, 48 hours, and they were like, we didn't realize our game would be so popular. Well, that was happy, I guess. That game was popular. They didn't realize Fall Guys would be so popular. And I think what a lot of people don't understand about, and I mean, I don't fully understand it, and I only did reading about it around Fall Guys, which is that you can't just be like, let's have a server for 1 million, because if there's only like 500 people in it, it'll run like fuck. So you need to have like a nice snug sort of size for what you think the people playing your game will be, for it to kind of run appropriately. And that's kind of what's happened here.
But with these, right, just to say, because I'm not smart enough to do this, but somebody in the world has to be smart enough to do this, and you'd make a fucking million out of this. Make a program or an algorithm that not only developers and people can use to stress test their fucking games, but at the same time, make it so these are expandable and can actively grow and retract when necessary. Just fucking, if you do that, I think people would just, whoever does it would make a lot of money.
I mean, I feel like that sounds too easy to not just have that being a thing. If it's.
I'm not saying it's easy. But if somebody was out there who thinks they could do it, fucking put some time into it, you could.
I did read through this Reddit post when they posted this stuff last night. I kind of appreciated them just being straight up, like, not. They just like. The longer Reddit post goes into full detail about like, here's what went wrong. Like, they didn't just post like a layman's like, our servers were fucked. Sorry everyone. They were like, here's what happened. And I saw people responding being like, as a developer or someone who's trying to be like, I appreciate that you're giving us the full tech details of what actually went wrong with the game, because it's kind of nice to know what happened behind the scenes. Anyway, so they're doing a whole bunch of patch stuff. For everyone who played the game between launch and I can't remember, it was like maybe next week or something like that. Or if you at least booted the game for 2 seconds, you're getting a free legendary, a free emote called Frustration, which they're not giving you the emote Frustration because people are frustrated about servers. Fittingly enough, and this is fucking hilarious, for the Frustration emote, you could not earn in-game. It was bugged. So now they're giving it to you as part of this, and it just works out perfectly because everyone was frustrated the game wasn't working. So, yeah, and they were getting so much shit online, I kind of feel bad for them. Like, I know there's an even line between, like, if you pay for a product, you should be allowed to be like, look, I paid for this, the game's not running right. But you should be able to say that without being a cunt. And a lot of people were like, saying like Def Freddy type stuff at the social media dude. Like, I remember I saw a lot of people posting last week when the game launched, like being like, don't attack social media managers over games having issues, like they're literally just being the front-facing person trying to help you on their Twitter page, and people are like, "Fuck you, this." Like, it can't help but kind of feel bad for them to a degree. So, hopefully, the game fixes itself up, and well, I mean, it's been mostly fine for me ever since that 48 hours. So, there we go.
That's all that matters.
That's all that matters. Yeah, I'm the only one that matters. DontNod moves into third-party publishing, writes GamesIndustry.biz. DontNod has announced that it's moving into third-party publishing. Life is Strange developer will be partnering with Danish studio Porterplay for its first publishing project. DontNod describes the partnership as a co-production, adding that Porterplay is developing an original creation which is in line with the editorial vision and values of DontNod. Head of development at Porterplay, Hans von Nutskovog? Said that the studio feels called to work on games with meaning, end quote, adding that they want to make games combining solid game mechanics and storytelling. So this is quite interesting because Xavier Spiant, head of publishing at DontNod, said, quote, as a publisher, we want to offer players experiences that are both accessible to the wider audience while setting the bar higher regarding themes and quality of design. I think this is interesting because there was a period where, so Tell Me Why came out and all this sort of stuff, and you're like, okay, I remember seeing some people being like, okay, maybe Xbox is going to buy DontNod next or stuff like that. A lot of people thought Xbox had just brought DontNod because they got that Tell Me Why exclusivity, and a lot of people thought that was like it was one of those things where, sometimes Sony gets third-party exclusives and people just assume that maybe it's a Sony exclusive. I think that was happening with DontNod and Tell Me Why to a degree. But apparently now they're moving into publishing, so they're certainly not going to be brought out by anyone, which I find quite interesting. They're certainly having a lot of shake-up at that studio to some regard. They're like, we're kind of done with Life is Strange. So Square Enix is obviously like owns that, and we're getting Life is Strange. What's it called? I can't remember what it's called now. Life is
Strange 3.
I can't remember. The Power of Love or something. I can't remember. Whatever it's called. So we're getting that, but they're not in charge of that. Instead, you've got DontNod over here being like, we're going to publish games, we're going to develop games at the same time.
True Colors.
True Colors.
Yeah.
They're shining through.
How do we feel about, do we feel like DontNod's got the setup, the infrastructure? How would you feel about DontNod? Like, this is a DontNod published game. Is that
that'd be cool.
Seal of approval?
I think if they use it to build up a library of narrative, story-driven games, fuck yeah, let's go. Do it, DontNod. Be kind of bring these games to the forefront, get them further developed and further out there. So we get more games, not just your Life is Strange, and not just your every now and then you get a great story-driven game like Disco Elysium. You kind of get more of these kinds of games out there. We had Telltale.
I guess they were who we looked at and went, Telltale does our narrative games every year.
Telltale, but also at the same time, they all felt like Telltale games.
Yeah.
Like they were all they were all extremely
Telltale.
Yes, exactly. They're all extreme. Whereas I would love DontNod to have this kind of overall umbrella of we want narrative story driven games, but not force them to kind of fit into a certain bubble. And just in terms of like how the game plays or what the game looks like or anything like that. Just kind of curate your collection of published games into that format and to push that and drive that more. I think if DontNod come out and they go, oh yeah, we're actually publishing this first person
like random first person World War II shooter or some shit, yeah.
World War II shooter, I'd be like, fuck off, DontNod, go back to making Life is Strange. But if they come out with this sticking to what they know and what they love, or what they've shown to love as a company, I think that would be fantastic for the industry and great for gamers in general.
Yeah, because when I first read this, I was thinking, man, it would be really cool if, like, 5 years from now, we're looking at DontNod kind of like how you look at Devolver Digital for, like, indie alternative action games. Like, people say Devolver Digital and you picture, like, cringy, like, fucked up humor, blood, like twin stick shooter, side scroller. You say Devolver Digital, you probably know what they're publishing. Like, and they definitely have a thing for what they publish. There's a few things that sort of outside the wheelhouse, but for the most part, they fit there. So kind of cool if DontNod's like that, but they're like for narrative games. Like a DontNod published game is a strong focus on narrative and characters, and that's what the thing is. What do you think, Ash?
Yeah, I'd be keen to see what they. It's hard to say. Are they just going to put out more games like they've done previously, or are they going to do something different? You would assume it would be similar to what they're currently doing, but Is it going to be 2D stories, 2D animated stories, or is it all going to be the like very DontNod-y looking? Is it just going to be more DontNod clones?
They're not going to look like their games if they're of a studio. So
I just think they should.
Or are they seeking? Is that what they're seeking out there?
I hope not. I hope they're just focusing on seeking good stories. Like it doesn't matter if it's a 2D side scroller with no combat, as long as it's like a focus on narrative. I guess that's like what their bread and butter should be: narrative and character over not combat. Like not typical gameplay.
Yeah, like they shouldn't be like action adventure games and stuff like that. Yeah. It shouldn't really.
They can publish visual novels for all I care. Like that would still fit within their wheelhouse, I guess. Yeah, so it's interesting. We shall see. All right, so I wanted to bring this one up, even though it's like kind of old, because it popped like right after we did. I think recorded last week, and it's like kind of popped straight after. But I was like, I need to talk about it because it's kind of cool. So Apple Arcade got this biggest like update that's had in over a year, and it's a pretty big and cool update to remind you that Apple Arcade has some cool stuff on there. So Kotaku writes, Apple Arcade exploded this morning, adding 30 new titles across 3 categories: Apple Originals like Miss Walker's RPG Fantasian, a game from the makers of Hot Shelf Golf, App Store greats like Monument Valley and Threes, and timeless classics like Zach Gage's Really Bad Chess and good old Solitaire. Just to shout out a couple as to the influx. Some of these I haven't tried out yet because I just haven't had time. I've been focused on fucking Outriders when I can, so I can get that review done and stuff like that. But so Fantasian, I really need to try out because a lot of people have been talking about it. It's from like a lot of the people that do Final Fantasy. I've seen a lot of screenshots and videos people posting on Twitter. It looks really, really pretty. I haven't seen too many people talk about if the gameplay is actually good. It's just like a straight up JRPG, but it's really distinct and cool looking art style. So I'm definitely keen to give that a go. So you got Clap Hands Golf, which is a new game basically from the people who make Hot Shelf Golf, and it's basically Hot Shelf Golf. You can play that one with a controller, which is kind of nice, and that just means you have Hot Shots Golf on the go or on the go with a controller. So that one is cool. I can put a seal on that one for the little bit I've played. So everybody's golf on the go it literally just looks like everybody's golf. Like if you look up at the screenshot, it just looks like fucking little street golf. One of my favorites, even though I'm not going to play this, but I found it fucking hilarious, is NBA 2K Arcade came out, right? And I saw Kotaku or someone else post an article and I read it where someone's like, this game is really fucking good. Like it is NBA that I want. And the funniest thing about it is because it's an Apple Arcade game and Apple says if it's an Apple Arcade game, it can't have microtransactions. Like that's like a big differing point between arcade games and like typical App Store games, right? So NBA 2K Arcade has no microtransactions. NBA 2K21 on your consoles is fucked up the wazoo with microtransactions. And I'm like, what a switch of events where the mobile version has none and the console version, the proper, quote unquote, proper version of NBA is just fucked with microtransactions. So I was like, what a turn of events we've all had here for everyone. Yeah. So Ash is like, yeah, Ash has got to switch to Apple now just so he can actually play some sports games without microtransactions going forward. So that
seems like a large investment.
Yeah.
Maybe. Just to avoid microtransactions.
Maybe. There's a Star Trek Legends game. There's a couple of things. And they've added a bunch of like old school things. So you've got like Cut the Rope remastered, fucking Fruit Ninjas back on here. Monument Valley has officially joined Apple Arcade, which is really cool. If you haven't played that, that's a fantastic game. Threes is on here now, which is great. I played the fuck out of that when it came out years ago. That was like my number one mobile killing time game. It's fantastic. Mini Metro, I know everyone loves, is now part of the service. Don't Starve, Reigns, Room, all these sort of things. And then if you want to play like old school Nokia 2800 games, as I mentioned, they've added like straight up just like solitaire, chess, and all this sort of thing, which you may be like, who cares? But I actually think what they're doing with Arcade here is really smart. And I hope this announcement of 30 games is sort of a change in the way they're going to go about handling this service going forward. Because I think it's really good that they were like, here's a bunch of originals, including, I forgot to mention, what's the name of it? The one from they made it instead of making Bayonetta 3. What's it called? World of Demons is what it's called, right? So World of Demons, Platinum Games. I haven't tried it out yet.
Wow, another game that they made before
Bayonetta 3. Yeah, fuckers. So I've downloaded it. I still haven't got around to playing that, but I definitely want to. Art style looks fantastic.
See, there's your problem there. You keep supporting all these games that they made before Bayonetta 3.
It's true. So that's another one. So it's like that, the golf game, NBA 2K, like bunch of what am I forgetting? I forgot to mention it. Fantasian. All Apple Arcade like exclusive things, right? They're like, cool, here's the exclusive games. And that's kind of what they was focused on in the first year. Everything on Apple Arcade was like, it either launched an arcade exclusively and then went to consoles after, or like it was just straight up exclusive to there or whatever. Like, and that's kind of what they was focused on. And now they've got 3 tiers, it seems. They're like, here's some exclusive games, cool exclusive Apple Arcade games. Here's some games that we're having join the service, be it like your Monument Valleys, like these well-loved games. And then they've got the 3rd tier of just like solitaire and chess and just random shit that people may actually enjoy playing. And I actually think this is a pretty good switch decision making from Apple to keep that service going. I know a lot of people, if you don't have Apple or you don't care to pay attention to these things, you may be like, Apple Arcade died, no one talks about it, whatever else. I had my subscription. I've still downloaded random things on there. I still think that for the most part, they've been adding a lot of really cool games on there. I just don't think they've done a particularly good job at promoting the service or like adding variety to the service in the game. So hopefully this will see an influx of what's going forward. But yeah, so that's cool. Good job, Apple. All right.
Woo!
E3 2021. It's officially a thing. So on the official blog, they wrote, and by they I mean the E3 people. It's game on for E3 as the Entertainment Software Association officially unveils plans for a reimagined all-virtual E3 2021 that will engage video game fans everywhere with early commitments from Nintendo, Xbox, Capcom, Konami, Ubisoft, Take-Two Interactive, Warner Brothers Games, Koch? I don't know. I can never even know.
Koch Media.
Koch Media. And more. E3 2020 will take place on June 12th through June 15th. Developers will be showcasing their latest news and games directly to fans around the world. The ESA will be working with media partners globally to help amplify and make this content available for everyone for free. And then you got a quote from the president and CEO of the ESA here saying, for more than 2 decades, E3 has been the premier venue to showcase the best that the video game industry has to offer while uniting the world through games. We're evolving this year's E3 into a more inclusive event, but we'll still look to excite the fans with major reveals and the insider opportunities that make this event the indispensable center stage for video games. So one big asterisk or like other thing I'll tie into this before I get everyone's opinions on an online E3. Let's not forget we didn't actually have E3 last year. I know it may have felt like we did because there were so many events, but there was actually no E3 last year.
There was unofficial E3.
Everyone did their own thing. But the important thing to remember for this E3 is everyone that kind of did their own thing last year, they're coming back to do it again. But this time E3 is going to be in the mix. So Jeff Keighley said Summer Game Fest, it's back. It's happening again this year. They've already confirmed PC Gamer Show, it's a thing. Future Game Show from last year, it's still a thing. These are all happening around that June, July period, which means that we're still going to have that 2-month just clusterfuck of video game presentations, streams, shows, and events, which is both scary and bad. I honestly don't know how I feel about it at this point because I felt like I was watching a video game showcase every fucking night for like 2 months last year. So I don't know if I wanted to go through that again, but maybe it was a little bit too much. But I don't know. Ciaran, how do you feel about E3 being back online? I mean, exciting or not?
I don't know. I feel like E3, I think we had the same conversation last year. I think E3 needs to prove its viability and its kind of worthiness of being the spectacle that it previously was. I think with Jeff Keighley being Jeff Keighley and doing what he did last year with kind of bringing together and putting that summer of games, kind of showed that E3 is not really as required as it used to be. I think it's really good. It's the same as if we compare it to freaking in the wrestling world, WrestleMania, where WrestleMania happens and then a whole bunch of indie promotions have events kind of placed around it. So there's, hype over on wrestling all at the same time. I think that's what E3 used to do. I don't think E3 is required as much anymore. I think there's too many other occasions and too many other chances for developers to not only announce their games, but communicate with fans, because we have got into this point where developers have understood they need to communicate with their fans more often than once a year at E3. And that they need to have regular communication with people to say what's going on with their games and to kind of continue to communicate with their
Just
audience.
to chuck it out there, do you think it says something that you have Xbox and Nintendo in this press release saying they're signed on for E3, even though both of them now do their own things, you know?
I think it's weird, but also at the same time, I think we shouldn't expect the same spectacle at this show as we might have previously expected from either organization. I don't think companies are as prepared to be all in on E3 as they used to be. E3 used to be, you know, this thing where all the big boys, all the big developers would show up at the gambling table. They'd plonk all their chips in the middle of the desk table, whatever you want to call it. I just called it a table and then forgot what I called it. But they dumped all their chips in the middle. And they just went, cool, we're going to have a freaking chip measuring contest and we'll see what wins. Where I don't think developers need to do that anymore, or I don't think they want to do that anymore because they're trying to avoid Kingdom Hearts 3 situations where the game is talked about over and over and over and over again.
Hey, at least it came out and was playable, unlike Cyberpunk.
Well, that's true. That is very true. But yeah, I think it's... overall, it's a case of E3 is not the spectacle that it once was, and I think that harms E3 more than it does anything else, because I don't know how E3 makes itself as relevant as it used to be.
Well, just before I forget this, because every other year prior to E3 going to shit last year, we would have been very excited in the lead up. Like, we would have been like, fuck yeah, can't wait, let's get excited. And the thing with it's E3 is you don't wait to see if you're excited. You go into E3 fucking pumped because you're like, it's E3.
Already.
So how do the companies involved or E3 itself, what can they do? Because they can't obviously tell you what's going to be there. That spoils the surprise. But how can they try and get the public excited for E3 again without actually just spoiling what the announcements are?
They need to make E3 exciting again by making their press conferences at E3 exciting. If that makes sense.
But how do they hype you up for that before they happen?
They can't do anything in the build-up. They honestly... And you know what? Honestly, it should be the easiest fucking home run ever. When everybody's expectations are so fucking low, they should be like... They don't have PlayStation's problem of a couple years ago where they had show after show after show of fucking amazing reveals and trailers, and then all of a sudden they have a show that on its own, in its own little bubble, would be a good show.
4 games.
It would be a good show. But in the representative of their catalog of previous shows, it was garbage because we were so used to that high serotonin injecting fucking shows where you used to be so pumped to play video games afterwards. So this year, they have fucking no expectations. Everybody is expecting these shows to be not shit, but to be underwhelming. Nobody's overhyping themselves for once. Nobody is coming up with weird and wacky games that are going to be announced. Just come to this show and fucking smash it out the park. Fucking put it... Well, even though, putting a bunch of release dates is a terrible idea right now in games, do something that is setting the... Do your Fallout 4 moment. If Xbox comes out with Bethesda and does a Fallout 4 moment where they're like, fucking bang, this game's coming out in 6 months, and then follows through with it, that shit's insane.
Well, let me say one thing on that, is that I definitely feel like if Xbox does a proper E3 presentation, they're going to split it up, and they're going to have a segment where Bethesda aren't going to have their own conference, but they'll have a Bethesda segment of the Xbox show.
Yes, 100%.
Which will probably work better than Bethesda trying to do a full hour by themselves. So yeah. Ash, how are you feeling about E3?
Nah. I mean, their last E3 wasn't super exciting, so I'm sure it'll be interesting. We'll get some interesting reveals, but I guess I know the press conferences are obviously the big thing around E3, but I feel like it's the coverage of the games after those press conferences. Because believe it or not, I don't know if you know this, Dylan, E3 went for 4 days. not just the 2 days the press conferences were running.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people like to be contrary to that, but yeah, whether we're going to get that kind of coverage afterwards from places like IGN or Press Start,
Splashnetwork.com,
or they want to hit us up to give us a little bit more insight into these sort of games and stuff. If we're missing that element, I mean, it just becomes another series of videos.
Yeah, that is definitely a thing, and because that's the funniest thing talking about an E3 online. It's like E3's always been online for us, dude. It's like every year it's just online only. And, there's definitely a few people who like to act like E3 is just an online only event when there's literally like the rest of the week has an entire conference on that people are playing games, and IGN's hosting live shows every day. GameSpot's hosting live shows every day. They're talking to developers. People are playing games. Like that's a big part of E3. It's not just the press conferences. So it's like, well, how do you bring that full E3 experience into an online only thing? And I guess that's kind of what would help get me more excited if they are like, look, we're going to have proper media people. We're going to have exclusive demos after the show. We're going to have the first 2 days is going to be your typical E3. It's press conferences from Xbox. It's press conference from Nintendo. It's a press conference from whoever. And then after that, you're going to have IGN and big outlets. They're going to have exclusive interviews with the games revealed, it's your typical E3 thing. Cause that was always the cool thing about E3. You'd see a game revealed on stage and be like, yeah, fuck yeah, can't wait to find out more about that. And then the developer would be on stage at IGN within the next couple of days talking about the game, giving you a few more details about it. Nintendo would do their Treehouse Live event. They would reveal a game, they'd do Treehouse Live, they'd give you more details. They would show a CGI trailer or whatever for a game and then show you gameplay at the Treehouse Live. So you'd be like, fuck, I gotta watch the Treehouse Live. So, I don't know. I just need more details. I'm open to being excited. One other quick question before we move on to the last news story is, I was gonna say, outside of E3, how are we feeling about just that general, coming up to that American summer period where the E3, Summer Game Fest, all these things are going to be happening. Is anyone like sort of salivating some big game news, game events at the moment? Because we haven't really had too many big things, and currently the year's looking pretty it's kind of quiet so far. Like unless we start locking in some release dates and stuff.
Things keep getting delayed. Like with Deathloop just getting delayed to September, it's just in a weird space, and I think we're going to have this COVID-19 hangover for next maybe
it's going to affect the next several years, like 5, maybe in 5 to 10 years for all we know. Like games are long development periods.
Yeah, so and I think that's just going to affect how games just are at the moment. And look, I'm excited for showcases and for events with these things, but at the same time, there's part of me that's just become maybe a little bit pessimistic at the fact that games are going to get delayed, and that's okay. That's completely fine. We want people to delay their games and actually use their time to fix their games and not just delay it and then just say fuck it and we'll just release a buggy game for the hell of it. It's just a case of it's hard to get excited for something when the goalposts are just continually being moved for it. Like I was really pumped for Deathloop. Like I was really excited for Deathloop coming out, and
I still am.
I still am. It's just been moved that little farther away.
Conspiracy.
So, yeah, it's just that like kind of I think we were all talking about how like we discussed with you guys how I think Dill, you said you're not going to pick up Mass Effect when it comes out because it's just that little bit too close to it.
Maybe I'll have to now.
Well, now
maybe you'll have to. Maybe you've got time to play it now. I think it's just a weird kind of space to be in right now for gaming, and I think that does put a little bit of a dampener on excitement levels, and maybe it's a good thing. Because gamers getting overhyped for shit is really toxic and really not fun to be in the community while they're doing that.
I agree, but I also just I like getting hyped for stuff because I can control myself. Like I love getting hyped over trailers at E3 and stuff like that. And I like getting excited for stuff, but I don't then if it turns out the game's shit, be like, oh man, this is the way. I'm a fucking adult, so I can do it. Ash, are you ready? Like, how are you feeling? You excited for some announcements? Do you want some announcements? Or are you like, no, fuck it, I don't care?
Yeah, fuck it, I don't care.
Do you want some games to play or what? Like, what's the...
I know, yeah. I know, I think my expectations are just low,
Yeah, COVID has ruined everyone. You've all gone lost some excitement in your lives. What are you doing?
No, I think until we start getting rumors of what actually is going to be, We can get ourselves hyped up, and I feel like obviously COVID's like delayed nearly everything that wasn't almost entirely finished. Before the pandemic started. It'd be interesting to see if they show.
All right, let me moving on to the last story. Let me hit you with a great rumor that could be part of the Xbox show.
Ooh, might hype me up.
Yeah, that might hype you up. So Press Start writes, Xbox is apparently trying to seal the deal for Hideo Kojima's next
game. The disappointment that was just zapped out of Ashley. Even though he knew the news story was coming up, you baited and switched that shit
until
out.
I clicked over to what the
article was. That's so good. That's so good.
According to Jeff Grubb at GamesBeat, Xbox is in talks with Hideo Kojima in regards to publishing the next title from Kojima Productions. Although not finalized, the deal would be part of Microsoft's plan to leverage Japanese talent and wrestle back some market share in that region. Grubb shared the news, which comes from a source familiar to the matter, as part of a piece detailing that, despite rampant speculation, the newly announced Abandon isn't a secret Kojima project, which I'm kind of going to touch on more on Platt in this coming up this Wednesday, because it's a PlayStation exclusive game. But basically, this game was announced. Everyone thought it was a Hideo Kojima game. Then it wasn't. And the developers rightfully were like, we're kind of annoyed that everyone was talking about Kojima when we just announced their game and not talking about our fucking game. So I was like, yeah, fair play. Press Start continues. It isn't clear for what form Kojima's successor to Death Stranding will take, although hints towards deals have been hidden in plain sight. Just as the Series S was there for the world to see, Phil Spencer recently had a Ludens action figure perched on his shelf behind him, a sly but deliberate nod to potential talks between Xbox and Kojima. If Xbox were to land an exclusivity deal with Kojima Productions for their sophomore title, it would be a huge boon for the platform's often mock software stocks. We're sure if a deal is done, we'll likely hear about that partnership at one of this year's biggest press events. And I'll just add on to the end of that article, hint, hint, maybe E3 2021. And that Ludens picture from Phil Spencer, that's been kicking around since mid last year when they did that thing. Everyone kind of forgot about it and was like, oh, maybe it's nothing, maybe it's a thing, maybe it's nothing. I swear to God, if that is a plant and that's how long these talks have been happening, I'm going to pay Phil Spencer for just having the balls to place that Ludens finger directly in plain sight, like that far back. Like, that would be fucking amazing.
Listen, Dylan, there is a Nintendo Switch in the background. Clearly, Xbox is going to buy Nintendo.
No, the Switch makes sense because
this is the guy that placed his fucking brand new up and coming console in the back of shots before.
There looks like there's a Connect 4 board in the corner. Connect 4 coming to piece.
Actually, you are the biggest fucking. My God,
the Switch makes perfect sense because they have a partnership with Nintendo. They've been publishing Ori and whatever else. They'll have Cuphead or whatever. So the Switch isn't a thing, but the Ludens figure, come on. I know, Ciaran, I know you have your up-down relationship with Kojima, but how would you feel if, from a business point of view, that Xbox came out and had Kojima join Phil Spencer on stage? Like, how big of a shock to the system would that be?
It'd be a fucking look. It'd be amazing just because of how, even though he's not always been directly linked to it, Kojima and
he's known for PlayStation primarily. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He's kind of a name for that. And I don't think, honestly, it would be a shock for that reason, but at the same time, once again, I feel like it isn't, like, I think the having it being a shock because he's related to PlayStation is an added benefit, but it's not like the key primary kind of reason for doing it, if that makes sense. Like, I think so many people will be like, oh, like, if you're likening it to the console with, oh, they're just doing it as an FU to PlayStation. I'm like, no, I just feel like Xbox is trying to do whatever they can to build this kind of uncomparable library in Game Pass and make Xbox and Game Pass something truly special in that way. Whereas PlayStation is doing what PlayStation does and is doing it well, and it's releasing games. And I think Xbox is all in nature of putting stuff on Game Pass and building Game Pass and making Xbox and Game Pass into a service as a whole. I think is so successful right now. And I think they're not letting their foot off the gas. They're pushing it forward. They're wanting to build it into more and more of its success. And I think that's exciting. Adding these things in and having these people come a part of that, it's a really smart thing to do. It's what you would expect from from your Netflixes, from your Prime Video, where they comparing it to, say, Netflix just buying Knives Out and buying the next 2 Knives Out movies. I think it's very similar to that in those kind of movements for Game Pass, and I think that's really exciting to see. I think when you compare it to, I think that's always been my biggest personal frustration with PlayStation as a company is how they fucking bail out on things that they start doing. That they come out with, like, the current situation on PSVR. The ever-growing support for PS Vita and the PSP, where they start off really well and then they seem to peter off and there's not stuff coming out for it, where I feel like Game Pass and Xbox are sticking with it and pushing through it and doing whatever they can to make it a success. And I really appreciate that and really like that. Ash is about to have some fucking hot take and shit.
Watching his face while you're speaking was quite amusing.
His face being like, have they though? Or, or...
Ash?
Yeah, I don't think this is going to happen.
No? Why?
I don't think it'll be an exclusive to Xbox thing. I think most likely it'll be a multi-platform game. And maybe Xbox is going to do like the ad campaign.
If it's multi-platform and that game is on Game Pass, that's a W.
No, it's not
right?
going to be on Game Pass. Everything isn't coming on Game Pass.
You're wrong. Everything,
because it's not going to be on Game Pass. That's why.
Everything does come to Game Pass. MLB the shows come to Game Pass.
Everything that they do ends up coming to Game Pass. Like, no. I don't know why you believe that they wouldn't be doing this for Game Pass. It's not like Kojima hasn't had games on Xbox before, because Metal Gear Solid 5 was on Xbox.
Yeah, no.
So was Rising Revengeance, I think. I know that wasn't him directly, but...
And I think they also released like the HD remakes of Metal Gear Solid. Yeah. But I think if they're doing this, they're doing it for Game Pass. And even if it is multi-console and it's just the fact that it's on PlayStation but it's on Game Pass here, that's a fucking W in terms of like for kind of even more push for Games Pass. That'd be amazing.
Well, as the article says, or Jeff Grubb,
what do you think, Dylan?
As Jeff Grubb reporting, they're trying to leverage Japanese market, the place where Microsoft suffers the most, and I think getting even if I wouldn't be surprised if it's exclusive. I think that would be my least likely thing at the moment, because that seems like I feel like they would rather actually spend the money to not get it exclusive, but actually just get it on Game Pass. Like I feel like if they had the two 100%. Options on the table, and option A is you can buy this game as an exclusive for Xbox, or you can just pay less money and strike a deal where it's coming to PlayStation 2, but you get the marketing, you get the put the Xbox logo, you get to announce it at an Xbox event, and it's coming to Game Pass day one. I feel like that's the direction Xbox is more likely to go, and that's more suited towards their plans. I know, especially because like Game Pass is, I know, like I agree with most of what Kieran was saying. I would say that it doesn't really compare to PSVR in that Game Pass has never struggled.
No,
like Game Pass has been a success out the door. There was a story a couple weeks ago, maybe last week before, where of course no one has official figures, but someone at Xbox was saying like, Xbox is Game Pass is making a fuck ton of money, and they were like, well, how's it, like, is that all from subscriptions? And they basically implied that Xbox is making a lot of money from Game Pass subscribers choosing to either buy games when they leave Game Pass because they want to keep playing them, or for a lot of the games that are on Game Pass that have DLC, people are playing a game, liking it, and then spending a lot of money buying all of that game's DLC expansions and stuff like that, which may sound surprising to a lot of us, because I know I've never paid for a game on Game Pass. I've never paid for DLC on Game Pass. But to hear that apparently a lot of people are doing that, and that's how they're making like quite a lot of money for Game Pass, is, you can't really argue with, like, if that's what's happening, that's what's happening. It's certainly an angle I guess a lot of people don't think about, because everyone just, you always just go, well, the subscription numbers, that's how they're making money. But apparently, no, it's the buying the games, it's the DLC, these sorts of things. So, and I guess that could be true. Like, even if they only have, if they had Kojima's next game exclusive for even 6 months, and then everyone brought it who was playing it, and they didn't finish it, and then they buy it through Game Pass with that 10% discount or whatever you get to buy a game while it's on Game Pass, win-win chicken dinner or double, whatever it is. So I wouldn't be surprised. In details, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a thing, because I don't think it's actually that shocking of a deal. Like, I understand Kojima's got that PlayStation thing, but at the end of the day, like, he's not owned by PlayStation, and it would be smart business for him to just go where he can make his game and get money and make another game. Like, I don't, like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's,
you don't think PlayStation would make the exact same offer?
But why can't he just take? But the thing is,
They
all
might
PlayStation
not,
have to offer
to
is
be honest.
exclusivity.
I don't know.
No, they don't offer giving his game away for free on a gaming service.
But the thing is, it's not for free for him because he's just going to get a massive fucking wad of cash from doing it, as well as
He could get a
getting
bigger wad of cash by selling it himself.
Wait, no. How, like...
Because
What
we
do you
don't know how
mean
the
he-
finances work for Game Pass, so we can make all the predictions we want. You know?
But the thing is, right, he could get, like, what you're saying is PlayStation would offer more money for exclusivity?
I would imagine they would make a similar offer.
But Xbox's offer isn't just to be exclusive. Xbox's offer would be Game Pass, and you can go to PlayStation and sell everything on PlayStation as well.
I don't know about that.
Xbox have way bigger pockets than Sony
Yeah, they do.
do. So that's the other thing that is that Microsoft backing.
Well, do they still? Who knows how much money?
That Microsoft backing is a lot bigger than people realize. I think it's like Sony isn't actually that big of a company comparable.
Yeah.
Especially their
And I completely understand Xbox wanting to get a game from Kojima, who brings his games out really quickly, unlike any Xbox studio games.
To be fair,
Sorry,
I
Kojima
know you
brings
said
out
it like
his game
sarcasm,
really quickly.
but it's actually kind of true. Like, I'm pretty sure Death Stranding came out, Death Stranding came out so much faster than people thought it was. And from all the rumors we've heard and everything we've seen on Twitter, the way people have talked about it, it's very much seemed like after Death Stranding was done, Kojima was like straight back into it, solely because he has all these ideas and he just wants to make games free of the Konami holds that were upon him. So I honestly, would not be surprised if we have a Kojima this game late. Don't know, COVID, but I went 2023. I guess would be like a
Before or after Halo?
After
it'll be
Halo.
after
Come
Halo.
on now.
It'll be after Halo, Ashley. Ashley, Halo will be next year, you fuck.
Lucky, I don't know. Just tying in though, like on this note, I definitely do feel like Xbox needs a big show coming up soon, be that this E3 one, be this one soon or whatever. Because and this isn't me taking a PlayStation fanboy standpoint at all, but they've certainly made a lot of waves by buying studios, by teaming up with places, by Game Pass keeps them in the news. They get a lot of cool deals with Game Pass, a lot of cool third-party deals on Game Pass that people like playing Outriders because it's on Game Pass, for instance, which I found out, by the way, console only, not PC Game Pass. I did not realize, but there you go.
Yeah.
But all these studios they've brought and stuff, they still haven't actually released any of these games yet, and a lot of them they haven't announced yet and stuff. So I feel like if any between Xbox and PlayStation, like who needs the bigger show today? I would say Xbox does, because like Sony have technically announced Horizon, God of War, Rise is supposed to be
Why?
this
They
year.
make so much money.
Sony has that's the thing. The thing is, Xbox is still fighting an uphill battle because Sony has the high ground, quote unquote, in terms of they have established very good IPs currently, and they have announced sequels for their very good IPs. And that they are on the horizon. Whereas with Xbox, on the horizon, you've got Hellblade 2, you've got Halo Infinite. Nobody knows where Starfield is. Nobody knows where Elder Scrolls
Fable
is. Already, Fable, stuff like that. But that stuff is too far distant to make people feel like they need to buy a ticket to get on the train of Xbox. Whereas PlayStation has that kind of momentum of, you're going to reasonably get a PlayStation exclusive every kind of 6 to 8 months. Like that is,
less.
we've got.
I mean, at the moment, you're
Less,
getting one
yes,
every 4 to 5 months, probably. Like, if I would say at least every 6 months, but you're kind of getting an exclusive, love it or hate it. Like Ratchet and Clank's coming up, for example, and then.
That's the thing. Those kind of AAA top of the pile kind of exclusives come fairly regularly for PlayStation. Whereas Xbox has peppered you with good titles and also adding previously released titles to their catalog. But it's been a while since we've got one of those really good AAA top tier games through Game Pass.
For sure. And just before we move on, just so it doesn't seem like I'm picking on Xbox, I also think Nintendo needs to do a good direct or something, or an E3 showcase or something, because the rest of their year is also kind of looking uneventful currently because we don't actually know if Breath of the Wild 2's releasing this year, or is it supposed to be this year? Is it even a thing that's still happening? I don't know. So, and Bayonetta 3 should be announced. Before we wrap up, had to jump into what we've been playing for a hot second.
No, we can wrap up.
By
we can
the
wrap up right now.
requests.
We can wrap up. No. We can wrap up. We don't take no requests on this show. There's nobody. Don't even. No, stop
By
it.
the request of Buddy Watson over from Radio Watson, who has been playing, of course, as we discussed last week, It Takes Two with Ciaran. Now, they haven't finished the game yet, as I've been told.
Oh, okay.
They are, I would say, about halfway from what I estimate.
We've just done like the.
From what I got told, you stopped right before you could have seen what happens to that elephant.
Yes.
And
yes,
I told Buddy
right
that you
before
should have just
there.
played for 10 more minutes because you should have just played for 10 more minutes. But
Yeah, that's why.
Okay.
But Ciaran, last episode you were talking about how you were schooling Buddy and all the platforming and everything, right?
Look, I
So I'm
was
assuming
top of my game.
that continued, right?
Look, athletes of the highest caliber have off days, and
sometimes athletes also have fluky days. So,
but the thing is, I've repeated performances before this, and look, Wednesday night was just not my night. I just gotta. Like, you know what? I decided at first, I was like, you know what? I've talked a lot of shit. I'm going to give Buddy a couple of these games just to give him a bit more. And then I just couldn't win one. I think I won one out of like maybe 6 or 7 that we played throughout the night.
In case people missed this, last week Ciaran talked absolute shit and said he was whipping Buddy's ass in the mini games and the platforming in It Takes Two. Now, if for some reason you don't know Buddy and you haven't listened to Radio Watson or seen when he's one thing, you should go check out Radio Watson and all these things. But also, he's a rather competitive person who also considers himself quite good at platformers. So, Ciaran awoke the dragon.
He Platinum Celeste.
Yeah. Ciaran awoke the dragon, and it sounds like you're now dealing with said
He
fire.
got burnt.
Look, it's
got
fine.
burnt.
It's a
He
lot of
got
fun.
burnt.
It's a lot of fun. I will continue to say that game's really fucked up. Like that
Oh, you
narrative.
don't even know.
It's like so fucking dumb. It's yeah, I'm looking forward to playing.
So
more
you're
stuff,
about
but-
halfway, I would estimate, and you're gonna when he's playing more over the weekend.
I don't know.
No?
I'm sure I'm gonna wait for the day where like my horoscope is right, that I have my lucky item, that I haven't walked and seen like a black cat or like accidentally walked under a ladder. I will like before I play, I'll like toss some salt over my left shoulder or right shoulder, whatever you do. And look, it's gonna be when the stars align. When it's my day, when I've got my, you know what? I think it was my pre-game ritual. I was not in the moment. I like rushed myself a little bit. Look, we've just got to. Also, it was late at night. That's where Buddy dwells. The first time we played was like middle of the afternoon.
He
That's
was still
my
half
peak.
asleep.
That's where the sun's up. I was not half asleep.
I mean,
Buddy had only just been up for like maybe 20 minutes before we played the first time. This time,
that's
this was
actually
like
a fair criticism. That's a fair point.
this was like peak nocturnal hours.
What time are you
where I
talking
was
about? Like
fucking,
10 p.m.
I think we played from like maybe like 9:30 till like 1ish.
Oh fuck, that's late for you.
1 o'clock is when Buddy
Which
gets
you guys know. That's
when we get our
that's-
Apex
Buddy's
wins.
just like Buddy was like on the up. Buddy was definitely on the up during that period, and I was on my like down where I needed to get some sleep and stuff. But it's like the UEFA Champions League. You have a home game, you have an away game. His home game and my away game went much better for Buddy than my home game and his away game. But aggregate, who cares?
Sports.
Well,
It's sorry, I'm just lulling him into a false sense of security for the final stretch.
as I said to Buddy the other day, I kind of wish that you had been streaming the game because you've definitely kicked up a way more competitive mini-game battle than me and Ash
just
had.
to not only does my shit talk continue throughout the entire game, where like Buddy, as soon as Buddy fucks up a platforming, I'm instantly on the. Does this game not know that you Platinum Celeste? Does it not understand that you Platinum Celeste? There's also a section where Buddy and me thought we were going off onto a side tangent, but really we were following the main story mission. And then we realized, oh fuck, we've probably missed some stuff. So we like did platforming in reverse to like of a whole like platforming section where you have to be like raising and lowering these like stepping blocks for each other like 3 times, and then we realized if we did the opposite, we fucking killed it first run. The first run back was bad though. Like it was,
you got stuck playing a game with a trophy haul, so that's the.
No, I was the one that went, oh, we should probably turn.
Because you got to play all the mini games so you can get the. If you don't play them all, the competition doesn't.
You do.
So I look forward to in the coming weeks or week. I have more sessions.
It's Take Two updates.
Yeah, we should only have at least one or maybe 2 more.
You know,
updates.
back on my day, I've reviewed the footage of last Wednesday. I've gone over with the team, with the boys. I've been and seen my sports psychiatrist. We're back in the headspace to play. Like, let's hope that the governing board of the gaming sphere that we play in books us for an afternoon match, and I reckon we'll be in for a chance.
I need next time you play, I even need you or Buddy just to tweet out after you finish the session what the current mini game scores are. I think that's what I would.
All right,
that's what I'd like to see. So make that happen.
Yeah. Look, my original plan was to hope that we could play. Clips. You know, no, my original plan was to hope that we could finish Take Two before last week's podcast went up. And then, but Buddy went away. For the weekend,
that was so. That was a funny thing. We recorded that podcast, and then I wake up Saturday morning or whatever, and I go to work, and I check Twitter around lunchtime or whatever, and Buddy's like posting about being fucking whoop whoop or somewhere, and then I'm like, Ciaran last night was like, I hope I finish the game before he hears all this. I'm like, you ain't finishing the game. I'm like, you're fucked. Right. So look forward to updates on that in the coming weeks. Who's going to win, Ciaran or Buddy? Let us know on Twitter or Discord, of course. You can let us know that or any other comments or questions concerns you have for this week's episode. ExplosionNetwork.com/Twitter. Join our Discord at ExplosionNetwork.com/Discord. And if you liked this episode and thought it was worth at least $1, you can head on over to our Ko-fi page to support us there. ExplosionNetwork.com/support and buy us a coffee for as little as $1.
If you buy us a coffee there, that might help me play in the night game if we're playing late at night. I'll be able to drink that coffee and
buy a coffee. Say here, this is to help Ciaran beat Buddy or some shit like that. I don't know.
Yeah, attempts, I believe.
Until next week, we'll see you then. Same time, same couch. Boy. Hey, don't forget you can subscribe to the show wherever you're currently listening, and you can drop a review if you can. Find more great shows like this and more content over at ExplosionNetwork.com. And please consider supporting us for as little as $1 over on our Ko-fi page by heading to ExplosionNetwork.com/support. Thanks for listening.